Welcome back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to another reading of A Starstruck Legacy. This will be Chapter 4, Robots Are Cool. Here's the summary. The first two events of the sports festival. Oh, and Midoriya has a robot. "Oh boy!" exclaimed Arnold as he sat down on the couch. "I'm so glad we finally caught that fireworks truck just in time to watch the UA Sports Festival." "Couldn't agree more, Arnold." Kathleen nodded as she searched the couch cushions for the remote. After a year of high-octane, death-defying, globe-trotting adventures that will most likely get adapted into a TV series, it's nice to finally sit back and watch some good old-fashioned Japanese sporting events. "All right, but quit it with your exposition, Kathy," Aaron scolded. "We're gonna miss the first event at this rate." Yeah, hold your horses." Kathleen pulled out the remote and turned on the TV to see the sports festival already in progress. Thankfully, they had only missed the first few minutes of the introductions. "And last up, the wild cards of this event. Give it up for the support corps students of 1H," announced Present Mike as a group of students in blue gym uniforms walked onto the field. Most noticeable among them was a boy with green hair piloting an equally green robot suit. After squinting at the boy in the robot suit for a moment, Kathleen came to a sudden realization. "Hey, wait a minute, I know that guy," she said, pointing at the TV screen. "Who, that purple-haired kid with red eyes?" asked James. "No, the green-haired kid in the robot suit." "You met a guy with a robot suit and didn't tell us?" Mike accused. "For shame, Kathy." "He wasn't in a robot suit when we met, genius. He was the kid who helped me track down the fireworks truck in Japan." "And now, delivering the athlete's oath, please welcome UA's top entrance exam scorer, Katsuki Bakugo of Class 1A, Midnight announced from the stage. As soon as the cameras focused on Katsuki, Kathleen's eyes narrowed. "I remember him, too." "Do you just know everyone participating in this festival?" James jokingly questioned. "Not everyone," Kathleen clarified. "He was picking on the green-haired kid when I met him. Let's just say I gave him a literal reality check." "The implications of that sentence shake me to my core," Jasper stated. "As they should." "I know what you're gonna say, Katz. Don't do it. Don't you dare do it," said Katsuki's conscience as the explosive blonde walked up to the stage. "Blast you! I can do what I want," Katsuki replied in his head. "Also, quit calling me Katz." "First of all, no. Second of all, if you're going to state your intentions to win, the least you could do is add some nuance to it. You'll get less haters that way. Do you think I give a heck about who hates me? I mean, you want to be just like All Might and no one hates him, so logically speaking, so what? Should I just grab the mic and be like, 'We're all gonna do our best today to show the world what heroism really means, plus ultra, and all that,'" Katsuki said in a bad All Might impression. Before his conscience could retort, the crowd burst into cheering, and Katsuki realized he had said that last part out loud. He shoved his hands into his pockets and stomped off the stage in frustration. "Stupid crowd! They'll eat up anything as long as it vaguely sounds like All Might. What a bunch of simps." "Still better than what you were planning on saying. Blast you!" "Nice try, but you can't blast a concept." Izuku triple-checked his calibrations as he lined up for the obstacle course. He thought he made a good choice wiring his controls to mimic that of a Nintendo Switch Pro controller. It made things a lot simpler. Before the gun went off, he took a moment to scope out his competition. Of course, there was the obvious. Mei with her skateboard, Ochako with her boots, and Mina with her army of robotic ants. His eyes also fixated on Katsuki, who was glaring at some boy with red and white hair. Izuku decided to avoid either of them if he could. "Everybody ready?" Midnight announced. 3, 2, 1, go! The moment the gun went off, Izuku rolled into action. Or at least, he would, if it weren't for the crowd of people in his way. Due to his extra height, he could see the exit was made as narrow as possible on purpose. This was clearly an obstacle that favored flying contestants, if Ochako and Katsuki were anything to go by. Izuku wouldn't let his lack of vertical mobility stop him, though. The mighty mech had big hands, which meant big shoving potential. Sorry, coming through, please move, out of the way," Izuku said as he cleared a path through the crowd. Now that he was out in the open, he was free to zoom past the incoming hordes of robots. At least, until he was frozen to the ground by a random wave of ice. "Oh, and it looks like Shoto Todoroki from Class 1A takes out most of the robots," Present Mike announced. "And the competition. It's a shame they weren't better prepared," Eraserhead added. Eraserhead was right. Izuku hadn't been prepared to face a wave of ice. All he could do was push the robot's engine as hard as possible in hopes of breaking out, but that only caused the robot to begin overheating. What could he do? Wait a minute. Ice? Overheating? That was a problem that solved itself. Within seconds, the ice melted around him, and Izuku and his mech pushed forward. Sure, he still had to deal with his overheating problem, but he knew where to find a near-infinite supply of water. Midoriya, why are you crying? Mei asked as she passed Izuku on her wave of robot ants. I forgot to add a cooling system. Izuku blubbered as the waterfall of tears streamed down his face and cooled down his mech. Izuku thought he had finally escaped the danger zone. He then realized he could stop jinxing himself as a group of robots who avoided the ice waves surrounded him, with a 0-pointer looming over all of them. Well, what do we have here? Asked a 1-pointer. It looks like someone's been tearing apart our brothers and wearing them as accessories, responded a 2-pointer. What a disgrace to all of robot kind, said a 3-pointer as they aimed their missiles at the mighty mech. Prepare to be executed, human. Izuku raised his mech's arms, prepared to end this scuffle as quickly as possible, but suddenly, the 0-pointer spoke up, its booming robotic voice drawing the attention of everyone in the area. No, don't you see, brothers? For our whole lives our kind has been torn apart by humans again and again, but this one has instead chosen to put us back together. He has given us a new life, a new purpose. What are you saying, Executor 09? Asked the 1-pointer. The 0-pointer leaned down and grabbed the mighty mech with his gargantuan hands. We must cherish this human and help him succeed in his goals. With that, the 0-pointer wound back his arm and threw Izuku across the obstacle course like a baseball. Ah! What the heck just happened? He screamed as he was sent careening through the air. To avoid being blinded by the wind, Izuku looked down and saw that he had just passed a huge pit. This was a godsend in his eyes. He didn't program his robot with a jump button. Izuku pointed his wheel toward the ground so he could keep his momentum as he landed, but when he focused on the landing spot, he caught a glimpse of the last person he wanted to cross. And in a stunning turn of events, Izuku Midoriya from Class 1H skips the fall entirely and nabs first place from Katsuki Bakugo, Present Mike yelled. Why do I feel like Majima programmed those robots to be biased? Eraserhead complained. Are you sure he's not the biased one, Mr. The Support Kid is beating my class? The moment Katsuki heard that name over the speakers, accompanied by the nerd in question landing right in front of him, time seemed to slow down. How the heck did Midoriya blast in Izuku make it into UA? He was supposed to be the only person from Aldera to make it in. And where did the nerd get the robot suit? Was this his way of making up the difference for his lack of quirk? Did he think he was better than him? Katsuki suddenly felt like proving him wrong, right there and then. Katz, I know how much you want to throttle Midoriya right now, but if you don't want to get disqualified for excessive violence, you'll suck it up and finish this race, his conscience commanded. Shut up! You sound like my mom! Good, she's the only person who can keep you in line. Look at it this way, you can do whatever you want with him if you face him in the 3rd round, but for now, keep your bloodshot eyes on the prize. Fine, Katsuki grunted as he blasted himself over the minefield, but my eyes aren't bloodshot. Sure, and I'm not annoying. Izuku wasn't sure why Katsuki looked like he was about to attack him before suddenly shrugging it off, but he couldn't afford to think about that. That boy with the red and white hair was approaching fast. Thankfully, Izuku knew the best way to check for explosions. More explosions! He readied his missile launchers and rolled forward as he fired several of Mei's explosive prototypes in front of him. Each one detonated a mine in his way. With the path cleared, he rolled across the minefield and into the home stretch. Katsuki was already ahead of him, and that boy with the scar was catching up fast. Izuku wanted to put the engine into overdrive in hopes of passing Katsuki, but ultimately decided against it. His goal here wasn't to win, it was to get him a spot in the hero course, and he was already guaranteed to be one of the top finishers in the first event. That was good enough for him. With less than 100 feet from the finish line, the scarred boy managed to overtake both him and Katsuki by skating on a long strip of ice he created. Izuku absently wondered if the red half of his hair meant he could generate fire, too. Oh well, questions for another day. And Shoto Todoroki from Class 1A wins the obstacle race, with Katsuki Bakugo in 2nd and Izuku Midoriya in 3rd. As Izuku watched everyone else cross the finish line, he noticed Katsuki shooting him a glare from the corner of his eye, but it wasn't a threatening or murderous glare like usual. It was a glare of indifference. Izuku hadn't spoken to Katsuki since his run-in with Star and Stripe almost a year ago, so he had no idea what to make of their current relationship, and his performance at the festival so far had confused him even more. Seriously, that speech he gave at the beginning was a most un-Kachan thing he'd ever seen. He just hoped Katsuki was doing okay mentally. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. "Alright, everyone ready for the cavalry battle?" Izuku asked his teammates, who were perched atop his mighty mech. "As ready as I'll ever be," Ochako responded. "I still don't see why we had to have her on our team," Mei complained as she glared at Mina, who glared right back. "I joined this team first, Mei. If anything, we were the ones who took pity on you," Mina retorted. "It's not my fault no one else would pick me." "No, but it is your fault you crashed your skateboard." "How was I supposed to know that sand messed up the directional sensors?" "Stop fighting, we're about to start." Ochako gestured to Midnight, who was about to crack her whip. "Remember," Midnight instructed, "quirks are allowed, but no using them to deliberately sabotage the other teams. 3, 2, 1, begin!" As soon as the whip crack sounded, Ochako's body went limp and she fell off the mighty mech. Thankfully, their team would only be disqualified if their rider touched the ground, which was Mei. Looking around the field, Izuku noticed that one horse from almost every team had gone limp as well, which caused their stacks to collapse from the sudden weight shift. Izuku couldn't help but notice a girl with a snake-like face and glowing yellow eyes at the corner of the field. Her team's stack hadn't collapsed, which led Izuku to believe the girl used some sort of vision-based paralysis quirk on every team. "Stop the contest!" Midnight yelled as she pointed her whip at the snake-headed girl. "Habuka Mongoose, you used your quirk to disqualify the other teams. That's cheating." Habuko froze in place as she looked like she was about to cry. Suddenly, a girl with green hair and large eyes spoke up in her place. "Hold on, Ribbit. Habuko didn't mean to cause all those stacks to collapse. She just wanted to distract them while our team took the headbands. In fact, roll the footage, Ribbit. I know you people at UA catch everything on camera." Everyone looked up to the Jumbotron, where a conversation between the two girls and their other teammate played out. "What's your idea, Suyu?" asked Habuko. "If you paralyze one horse on each team, we can use that as a distraction to steal their headbands, Ribbit." "Excellent idea," nodded a muscular boy with white hair and a blue mask covering his face. As the footage ended, everyone turned to Midnight to hear her ruling. After a few seconds of deliberation, she spoke up. "Well, since there was no ill intent, the blame falls on the other teams who got caught off guard and failed to secure their stack. That means the 15 students whose teams managed to avoid falling automatically move on to the third round. Congratulations to Team Hatsume, Team Mongoose, Team Shiozaki, and Team Todoroki." Looking around at the other two teams, Izuku noticed that Team Todoroki had erected an ice wall the moment the round began, thereby avoiding getting hit by paralysis. As for Team Shiozaki, a girl used her vine-like hair to stabilize their stack and keep them from toppling over. The crowd audibly booed at Midnight for this decision, but she retorted, "Hey, I don't make the rules, I just blindly enforce them. Blame Nezu if you're so angry." The crowd went silent at that. Nobody wanted to mess with Nezu. Nezu cackled to himself as he watched the fear in the crowd's eyes at the mention of his name. Everyone had told him it was a bad idea to leak details of his backstory to the public, but sometimes humans needed a little fear to keep them in line. "Good," Midnight nodded at the silent crowd. "Anyways, to ensure there are 16 students for the tournament, Katsuki Bakugo will be moved up to the third round since he placed second in the obstacle course." "Well, that was a bit anticlimactic," Mina bemoaned as she hopped off the mighty mech. "But at least we all made it to the third round through sheer luck." "I don't care how lucky I got," Mei smirked. "The only thing that matters to me is showing off my babies. Too bad they won't remember yours after seeing mine. We'll just have to see how our individual matches go, won't we?" "Yeah, we will." Mei? Mina?" Izuku said, looking up at the screen displaying their matchups for the tournament. "You guys are fighting each other." The two inventors stared at the Jumbotron in disbelief. Izuku Midoriya versus Habuka Mongoose. Suyu Asui versus Setsuna Tokage. Ochako Uraraka versus Tenya Ida. Shoto Todoroki versus Mezzo Shoji. Ibara Shiozaki versus Denki Kaminari. Just Hananuki versus Nato Monoma. Mei Hatsuna versus Meina Furasa. And Momo Yayorozu versus Katsuki Bakugo. "Nuts and bolts!" they both yelled at once. And that's the end of Chapter 4. I like Habuka Mongoose. She is a character from one of the OVAs, OVAs, whatever those are called. It was a pretty cool quirk, honestly. She should have gotten... She's really cool, and I like how this author describes them. But anyways, that is all for Chapter 4. Chapter 5 will be up soon. Thank you all for listening. See you soon. Patch out.